Every set of Star Wars Unlimited comes with many new leaders. It's one of the most exciting things about each new set. Some are powerful in many colors, others have a really niche build that comes out of nowhere and just dominates the format. Today, I'm going to be giving my takes on what leaders I think will be making the biggest splash in Star Wars Unlimited's first post-rotation premiere format, A Lawless time.
Show me how to lie, you're getting better all the time, and turning all against one is an art that's hard to teach. Another clever word sets off an unsuspecting herd, and as you step back in the line, a mob jumps to their feet. Now dance, fucker, dance, man, he never had a chance, and no one even knew it was really only you, and now you steal away. Take him out today. Nice work you did. You're gonna go fuck it with 1,000 lies and a good disguise. Hit 'em right between the eyes. Hit 'em right between the eyes. When you walk away, nothing more.
Before we jump right into the leader rankings, we need to discuss what I think is going to be the early standouts. Mother Talzin either in red or yellow, Obi Virgin's Temple, Luke Data Vault, and an aggressive negotiations deck are all going to be vying for the top spot early on. There will be, I think, a red-yellow hero space aggro deck. I'm not sure what leader is going to be the head of that deck yet, and I also think there's going to be some powerful rogue decks that crop up here and there. I'll also talk about how these leaders have certain counters built into them to counter these strategies if those come up. So with that out of the way, let's start off with our first ranking. Agent Kallus, reconsider your allegiance. 3 stars. I think Agent Kallus will have a tier 3 deck. So Agent Kallus is a vigilance villain leader with the action, pay 1 resource and exhaust, play a card from your hand ignoring its aspect penalties. He deploys on 5 or more resources as a 3/6 Imperial Trooper with the same action, except you don't exhaust him, so you can do it as many times as you want, but you still have to pay the resource. And then whenever you play a heroism card, you get to heal 2 damage from your base. I think Control lost a lot of its best tools. Blue Villain isn't in the best spot right now. What makes me think Kallus is interesting is his ability to play any card out of aspect for only 1 more resource, which gives him like the largest usable toolbox in the game to be competitive. It's not going to surprise me if a really good player later on in the set cycle says, wait, I can play like Kallus Yellow really well, but I need a really good board clear. I need a really specific toolbox card to beat X deck that's giving me trouble. Well, he can play that X deck, right? He can play single reactor cannon for only 1 more resource. He can play the new Luke unit if for some reason that's like the big counter, which I don't think it will be, but he can play that for only 1 more resource. So it really depends on what he needs to counter and what he can be good with. You can play Kallus Data Vault and run Jam Communications for only 1 extra resource. So no matter what colors you run, Kallus can always pay 2 resources for Jam Communications, which targets an aggressive negotiation deck, which I think is going to be really prevalent in the meta. So that gives him some of these tools to come and counter some of the things that are in the top decks in the format. He can play Legends of the Force Anakin extremely well, since you get to play all of the good hero cards, and you don't just have to like discard them from your hand, you still get value out of playing them. He also gets to play a lot of the busted Spectre units, and honestly, a lot of the Spectres are already seeing play in normal decks that you run like a splash base for. So if you're taking 3 HP away to play them on curve, maybe it's actually just as good to play them off curve a little bit, but have their second effects become a little bit more consistent. I think he's going to be tough to play. I think he's going to be tough to build, but I do think someone somewhere out there, at least one time, is going to have the right tuned toolbox with the right amount of luck to see him have a little bit of success. Aurra Sing, Assassin. 3 stars. I think she'll have a tier 3 deck. Aurra Sing is a vigilance villain leader with the action, tap this leader, defeat a non-leader unit with 1 or less remaining HP. She deploys on 7 resources as a 3/7, so really bad stats, but does her deploy make up for it? And it can kind of make up for it, because when she's deployed, you may defeat a non-leader unit with 5 or less remaining HP, so she flips and kind of kills something instantly, as long as you have it like pre-set up. That's all good to do. Initially, Aurra Sing compares a little bit to Mother Talzin, which is a strong sign that she could be really good. Both effectively have like a -1 HP attached to them, but while Talzin's is stronger, it does have the restriction of using the Force when Aurra doesn't. And that makes Aurra Sing different enough to warrant being tried. And if you're trying Aurra Sing out, I think you want to avoid the Force synergy, because if you're doing Force stuff, you might as well just be playing Mother Talzin. So I don't think you want to play Aurra Sing in Force at all. The color that I think you're most likely going to want to run with Aurra Sing is red, because you get a bunch of different damaging spells, which can then proc her leader ability. And you also get no disintegrations, which lets her kill any non-leader unit for only 3 resources over the course of 2 actions, which is like one of the most effective targeted removals we've seen in the game. So I don't think hard control can compete with aggressive negotiation decks. We're going to quickly get into this with the next leader, but any deck that draws a bunch of cards benefits off their own units dying, and then having the ability to slam the dome for 15 with any unit makes playing control really tough right now and not like the best strategy to use. Any 2 resource unit in this meta can threaten 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. It's not a world that hard control can thrive in, especially since with the amount of card draw we see, you can't exhaust their cards anymore. Like, you can't run them out of cards. They'll always have gas to keep the pressure up, so you can never effectively turn the corner, hope that they have a dead draw, and then like push forward. And honestly, you're pretty much dead before Aurra Sing even flips. And when she does flip, you're usually still checkmated because you have multiple units on the ground, so you kill one, and then you get aggressive negotiations to lose. Jyn Erso, time to fight. 5 stars. I think Jyn is going to have a tier 1 deck. So Jyn Erso is a Vigilance Heroism leader with the action, pay 1 resource, and tap this leader. If a friendly rebel unit was defeated this phase, search the top 3 cards of your deck for a card and draw it. Put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in a random order. Then she deploys on 5 resources as a 3/6, so she has okay stats if you have a strong leader ability, which I believe she does. Her on-attack ability is the same as her leader ability, except now you don't have to pay the extra resource. Just if a friendly rebel unit was defeated this phase, you get to search the top 3 cards of your deck for a card and then draw it. Jyn has the best card draw ability we have ever seen in the game. The effect is, look at 3 cards, draw 1, with no restrictions. The only thing that we need to do is make sure a rebel unit had to die this turn. So the question is, do we have good rebel units, and can we give them Sentinel or make them scary enough that people will have to kill them? Well, yeah, we kind of do, and we kind of have a lot of them. She is by far the best aggressive negotiation shell out there, and she also gets to run Rebellious Hammerhead, which in this deck is a really good unit, one that you like never resource. It's like a Rival's Fall, but has a 5/7 attached to it. Oftentimes, Jyn gets to draw 2 cards on her flip turn, which is a massive swing in value. The downside of her is you play under curve. But instead of playing under curve, just imagine that under curve card has an extra thing attached to it that says draw 1 or sometimes even draw 2. We have seen in the past cards like Ki-Adi-Mundi be a menace specifically because he had 3-cost stats, right? He was a 4/4, which we've seen on some 3-cost cards. But for 1 extra resource, he had a draw 2 ability, and he was almost extremely broken in a similar thing where we had Force Throw and also Rebellious Hammerhead. But now Jyn gets a really strong payoff with aggressive negotiations. It's a built-in win condition, where you can just steal games with a +10 attack that you shouldn't have any right winning. With all the card draw we have, you have a really high chance of seeing not just 1, but 2 of these cards at a reasonable time in the game. Jyn's ability is also more than card draw, because you get to see 3 cards and choose 1. So if you use her ability 2 times total, you've seen an extra 6 cards or 3 turns worth of natural draws. Jyn with aggressive negotiations also has just some level of inevitability, which means if your opponent doesn't kill Jyn quick enough, like if you guys are pushing back and forth and the game is going longer, you still have a chance to win because a single turn 1 play with 3 attack can threaten game at any point from hand. It's just extremely, extremely hard to play around. Jyn will always be able to negotiate her way to victory. Jyn's draw ability of seeing 3 cards also is like the best leader ability we've ever seen to proc the Rey unit, which whenever you draw her during the action phase, you get to reveal her and then deal 2 damage to a unit and 2 damage to a base. You can high roll this so hard. Sometimes your opponent is like traded into one of your units and has a 1 or 2 health unit left up. So sometimes you just go, okay, well, I'm going to tap, find Rey, and then kill both. But also, if it's on Jyn's flip turn, you kind of get 6 cards to do that with Rey. You get a do her action, look at 3, try and find Rey. If you don't, you flip Jyn, attack base, look at another 3 cards, try and find Rey. And if you do, well, then you've just gotten so much value that you just kill their leader, kill their unit. push 3 damage to base, plus another 2, so that's a total of 5. It's just some of the high roll stuff that you can do with Jyn is insane. The inevitability of Jyn is insane. Vel Sartha, Aldani Insurgent. 3 stars. I think she'll have a tier 3 deck. So Vel is a Vigilance Heroism leader with the action, exhaust this leader, give an experience token to a unit, an opponent creates a credit token. She flips on 6 resources as a Force 7. With the on attack ability, you may give an experience token to a unit. If you do, an opponent creates a credit token. So Vel is a lot like Leia and Rey and all these other experience token leaders, but where those leaders basically had a restriction and you had to pay one, what Vel gets to do is have no restriction and give your opponent a credit token. So you're kind of like paying a tax instead of like paying a resource. Vel also being in blue, and if you pair her with green, she does get a lot of credit hate cards. If you're smart enough and savvy enough, you can give an experience token to your unit and then be able to play the credit hate card before your opponent can even like use it. So effectively you got a free experience token. And that would be really strong if it was consistent. And I initially liked Vel a lot more than I do now. Vel essentially is just the second best leader in every color combination. Are you running red? I think you're better off playing Jyn. Are you running green? I think the stronger green-blue hero deck is Obi-Wan Virgin's Temple. Are you running yellow? Spoiler alert, I think Lando Blue is just better than her. The argument you may have is that if you want to run blue-green hero, not Force, she might be the best leader for that, but I don't think that is going to be in a good spot right now. Blue-green hero lost a lot of the necessary cards, and while it was an annoying and dominant deck in the last format, rotation has really hurt this deck, and it's not that threatening now. I think blue-green non-Force will be a tier 3 deck, and I think Vel will be the best leader in that category. Boba Fett, Crate Claw Commander. 2 stars. I think Boba Fett has potential in the future. So Boba Fett is a command villain leader with the ability, when a friendly bounty hunter unit's attack ends, if the defending unit was defeated, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, create a credit token. He flips on 5 resources as a 3/6 with raid 1, and with the same effect, when a friendly bounty hunter unit attack ends, if the defending unit was defeated, create a credit token. Notably, your unit can die and you still get to create the credit token. It doesn't have to live, so that is a bonus, and he does kind of have Sabe's stat line as 3/6 raid 1, which has been competitive in the past. My problem with Boba Fett is just simply, I don't think we have enough bounty hunters right now for him to be competitively viable. I think Boba Fett is really best right now in red, and that's kind of what he was intentionally designed for if you look at all the other Crates Claw crew and what colors they were printed in. But his effect actually would work really well with ambush, because you can play an ambush card. If it's a bounty hunter and it kills something, well, a bounty hunter's attack ends, so then you get to exhaust your leader and create a credit token. So not only did you kill a unit, play a unit, you also created a credit token to have further your game in the future. The problem comes in when you actually look at the amount of bounty hunters that we have. There are currently only 6 bounty hunters total that are turn 1 play bounty hunters. Only one of them is in Boba's natural color of green, and one other is in his other color that he's designed for in red. And they're both actually like pretty bad. None of them are 2/4s, and one of them is a 2/2 raid 2. So if you go second, he just basically dies and doesn't do anything. The best bounty hunters that you have for him is probably Chio Fawn, which is a 2/4 on attack, both players draw a card, but he's in blue-red, so you'd have to play a splash base to play him. And then you also have Aurra Sing, which is a hidden 1/4 raid 2, which is in yellow villain. So I think that's the initial problem, is we don't currently have enough turn 1 plays to make him play a bounty hunter turn 1 and then be able to start sparring with credits early. I don't think that is currently where he's at, and I think that's a really big limitation. So if we continue to look at other bounty hunters, you have Lazzarazzi, who's a really good bounty hunter, but she's in green-blue. And then when you look at green-blue, we again don't have that many bounty hunters. And the ones we do are just kind of meh. Like, none of them are like truly insane. Except when you start looking at yellow. And I think the yellow cards are the most interesting to me, because you do have cards like Contracted Hunter, which, yeah, it does die, but typically you can play him on 2, kill a unit, and then you get a credit token from that kill, so you jump straight from 3 resources to 5 resources next turn. And then you could play a strong 5-drop Ambusher, which he does have a strong 5-drop Ambusher in green-yellow at 4 Lam, who's kind of like an ambusher because it's when played, you go to attack with a bounty hunter unit, or with Guild Ambush Team, which is a 5/4 ambush. So there are some things here that make me feel like I actually think green-yellow Boba Fett might be the way to go in the future if we get more ambush bounty hunter units. And I think that's going to be the key, is we need ambush. He's kind of designed the best for ambush. But if you look at red, yeah, you have High Singer, but High Singer's truly only good if you're going first. And Asajj Ventress is an understated unit, but you might be able to get 2 credit tokens out of her. Like, I see what they're trying to do there. And maybe you go green-blue and you get Bosk and Latsratsi and Cad Bane, but also those cards are just not that great except for Lats. So currently, I just think his color's not that great. He doesn't have that great of bounty hunters to trigger his ability right now. But in the future, he's actually a really strong leader if we start getting efficient bounty hunter units. If we ever get a critical mass of bounty hunter units where you can play strong 2/4s or 3/3s on turn 1, you can reliably get kills early on, and you can start cashing in these credit tokens to drop big units. And being in green, a lot of green villain cards do have, high cost, high impact cards. I think we could see Boba Fett being good in the future. But right now, we just don't have the bounty hunters to make him work. Director Krennic, amidst my achievement. 2 stars. I think he will have potential in the future. So Director Krennic is a command villain leader with the action, tap this leader, and you must defeat a friendly unit. You get to create a credit token. He flips on 7. He flips on 7 resources as a 4/9. With the when deployed ability, another friendly unit deals damage equal to its power to an enemy unit. So obviously his whole shtick is you keep killing your own units to eventually play a big guy, and then when you flip, you automatically get to deal that damage to something else, so you get to flip and kill something. Akin to like how Yoda used to work. That's kind of how he's designed. But in practice, I just don't see killing your own units for +1 resource as typically that's good. Sometimes it's good to kill units that have really strong when defeated abilities, or cards like, once again, Contracted Jumpmaster, who he's going to die at the end of the turn anyway. So you basically play him, get a kill, and then you get to get a credit token afterwards. So that's what he's designed for. And unfortunately, right now, he has 2 cards that are making his deck like a niche tier 2 deck. There's 2 cards that are really good. We already talked about Contracted Jumpmaster, right? You play him, kill something, get a credit token, really good card. And that actually directly links into his next card, because you can go turn 2 Contracted Jumpmaster on 3 resources. Then you'll have the credit and 4 resources to play a 5-drop, so you could play Legacy Run. And then you kill Legacy Run off, and then it's like a board clear, a 6 damage, kill something again. And you also got a credit, so then you go into the 6 resource turn with 7 credits. That's kind of what he's designed to do. And in a way, that is kind of interesting and does kind of work. The problem is, those are the only 2 cards. So you have 6 cards out of a 50-card deck that are really strong. And right now, we just don't have other synergies. We do get some big units, but currently, green-yellow villain top end isn't that strong, since we lost cards like Relentless, and we lost cards like Spark of Rebellion Devastator, and we even lost like Darth Vader. If we had Darth Vader, he'd be really strong, because you could play Darth Vader, then play another unit out, and then you could have like a wide board, and then, you can start playing your other cards, get more credits, stuff like that, right? So we lost a lot of good top end for green villain. Yellow villain doesn't have that great of top end. We're not really there. We're missing the top end, and we're missing a few more pieces to make Krennic consistently viable. But right now, I do think he has future potential. He's not a meme. There are some things you can do with him. Currently, though, even when his deck does the thing, he still just opens himself up to be killed by an aggressive negotiations deck, by an Obi-Wan deck. I just don't see it. Hera Syndulla, not fighting alone. 2 stars. I think she's a fun theme deck, but not really competitive. So Hera is a command hero leader with the ability, while you control 2 or more units, ignore the aspect penalties on heroism units you play. She flips on 5 resources. As a 3/6 restore 1 with the same effect, while you control 2 or more units, ignore the aspect penalties on heroism units you control. The problem with Hera is that we've already get splash bases, meaning we already get to negate a single card's single aspect penalty if we wanted to in any deck that we want. So that means you're going to need to want to do this more often than just once or twice a game. And then when you want to do it, you also need to have at least 2 units on board. So typically, I think Hera is best once she flips on her 5 resource turn, because you get your free unit, and then hopefully you have another unit already on the board, and then you get to play your really cool Spectre unit. And that's what she's designed for. She's designed for the Spectre units. And I'm not going to lie, I really want to make a top 10 list, and I might put 3 out of the 6 Spectres I think that we got in that top 10 list. I think the Spectres are really strong, especially if you get their like aspect penalties, secondary effect proccing. Then all these Spectres are actually like quite insane. And she's designed for it, so how can she be bad? And I just think in a real competitive game, we have to ask ourselves, how often are we actually getting multiple units out in the single turn? Like, maybe you run her in yellow and play Faith in Your Friends. Like, I could see that happening because you start off with 2 units, then your opponent, kills one of your spies, you play another unit, and then eventually, if you ever get initiative, or even if you like started out with initiative, then you start spiraling out of control. The only problem with that is spies aren't green or yellow, right? They're neutral. So you already don't get to start out getting like the powerful effects of your Spectre units. So like the dream would probably be to do something like start with initiative, play Faith in Your Friends, play Sabine Wren, and then on the next turn you get to go like Kanan or Ezra, and then on the turn after that you get to go Zeb, and then I think on the turn after that's when the ghost comes out, right? So that's how you're like intended to spiral this. So I think yellow might be the best way to go, but I just don't see it. Like, how often are you going to have all those cards in your deck? And then if you get screwed and you don't go first and you only have 1 unit on the board, well, maybe you're playing a splash base so you can like try and kickstart it, but at some point you're just going to have a hand with all of these out of aspect cards that you can't play on curve, and then they're all really bad and they're really sad. So I just think the ability of only getting heroism cards discounted, I think having to have 2 units in play is really hard, and it's going to make your deck really awkward. But listen, if you want to build a Spectre themed deck and you want to run Hera at like a local game store, I think you can. I don't think she's unplayable. I think some people will want to make her work specifically because they love Rebels and they love the Spectres, not for future potential, but for a niche build. However, I just want to highlight in 2 sets, we have a set called Homeworlds, and it's theorized that we're going to probably get tokens that are based on planets. So if, for instance, we get like Ewok tokens or something like that are really easy to generate, and we can generate 5 or 6 Ewok tokens, and you can have a whole board of Ewok tokens, then maybe Hera becomes kind of decent because you play a bunch of Ewok tokens, and then you get to play a bunch of good heroism units, and at that point in time, we'll have 6 sets, so we'll have a lot of really good heroism units. Like, that could be something that happens, but it's like 2 sets away. That's, 36 more leaders. It's a lot of cards, possibly even banned, so you can't count on that. I just think she's a niche leader. Leia Organa, Someone Who Loves You. 1 star, I just think she's really bad. So Leia is a command heroism leader, and she's a starter leader. With the action, pay 2 resources and exhaust this leader. For this phase, give a unit +1/+1 for each different aspect it has. She does flip on 5 resources, but as a 2/2 overwhelm, and she has the when deployed ability. Choose a unit, and she can choose herself. Give an experience token to that unit for each different aspect among units you control, including herself. So at worst, she's a 4/4. And at best, what can we make her? Well, we'll talk about that. The first thing I want to talk about is her leader ability is at best a +3/+3 if you hit one of the really busted like Spectre units. And for 2 resources, a +3/+3 is like kind of not that great. I think we've seen that on cards before that have like never seen play, but this is on a stick, so maybe it's a little bit better. It's just too expensive, and it's also too slow because you put that on a unit, and then maybe they get hard removed, and then you just wasted 2 resources, gave your opponent extra value, and now you're really behind. The one thing that I thought of with Leia that was like kind of cool is you have to play her in yellow, and on her flip turn, you can plot out Garindin, who's a yellow villain card, so you would have to pay 4 because you're 1 off aspect. Consistently, she would see the green-white on her, the yellow-black on Garindin, and she would get +4 experience tokens. So you could make her a 6/6 on her flip. You get to see your opponent's hand and potentially discard a card if you guess right. So you could say the only card that you think would beat you is X, you call X, and then they discard it. That is like the best, most nuts thing I could see that you do with her. And I still don't think it's that good. If you don't hit like the special Garindin play, at most you'll probably get like 3 experience tokens realistically. So she flips a 5/5. Well, she has the same amount of stats as somebody who's a 3-7 or a 4-6. And as a 5-5, I don't think those are good stats like at all. So you really need to hit 4 aspects. And besides the Garinden play, I don't see it being that consistent. Like, you can splash base and then maybe play like Kanan, flip a card back to their hand. Now they're behind, they can't kill Kanan. So as your first action, you flip Leia, and then you see yellow, blue, hero, green, and that's another 4. Like, that could be something that you do. And I don't think it's like that bad. And if you are lucky and you like draw the absolute nuts and you can make her like a 7-7 with 5 aspects, I think she could also be extremely good. All we're talking about is like you have to have the absolute nuts draws. So she just has a really overcosted ability. She flips as a 4-4 at worst, which is really bad stats unless you have specific units. But if you play a competent opponent, they're not going to let you have those units. And even at like a 5-5, which is kind of like her best realistic case, if you don't do like the sneaky Garinden thing I talked about, she doesn't have better stats than a 3-7 leader. So I don't really like Leia. And maybe if they have like crazy aspect sets in the future, she would be good, but not right now. Darth Vader, unstoppable. 1 star. I think he's unplayable. The Darth Vader has the action, exhaust this leader and discard a card from your hand. Deal 1 damage to a unit or base. He flips on 7 resources as a 6-8, so he's a pretty big boy. With the on-attack ability, discard any number of cards in your hand. Deal damage to a unit or base equal to the number of cards discarded this way. And I really want to talk about Vader. So if you saw my box opening video, this will all sound pretty familiar. But Vader's design is just really bad, and quite honestly, I think he's one of the worst designed cards in the game. First, his front side wants you to discard cards, and his backside also wants you to discard cards. How many cards are you going to have realistically? I know some decks, like Jyn, which is what we already talked about, draws a ton of cards, but a lot of those are leader specific, and some heroism units help her draw cards. At most, you get to discard like 2 or 3 cards out through like a normal game. And then if you don't have great card draw, your hand is extremely pinched and really susceptible to discard effects, as well as like you just don't have like the proper curve. Most of the good card draw is in Blue-Red Hero with like the X-Wing, Jyn's abilities. There is some draw in Villain, but it's not a lot. And then his flips also want you to discard those same cards that you've already discarded. And you just don't have any cards left. I will contend that Vader needed to have Daedra's leader ability, and then he would have been thematic and actually an interesting leader to play. For those just listening, Daedra has the ability where she pays a resource and then chooses a unit. The opponent gets to determine if they want to deal 2 damage or let their opponent draw a card. Well, typically you don't let Daedra draw, but Vader at least has the theme of he's either slaughtering a bunch of small units with the 2 damage, or he's saving up his power to make a grand entrance with the card draw option. At least this way, he would have had the ability to draw cards and not only discard cards. Right now, I just think that his leader side and his deploy side both want to discard cards. There's no mesh there. He deploys too late to be an aggressive deck, and I just think that there's better options for hard control, even though hard control is not really good right now. Sebulba, especially dangerous Doug. 2 stars. I think he's a fun aggro deck. So Sebulba is an aggression villain leader with the action, exhaust this leader, discard a card from your deck and it's always the top card. A friendly unit gains raid 1 for this phase. He flips on 4 resources as a 2/5 raid 1 with the on attack ability, discard a card from your deck. So initially, he kind of brings up Sabine vibes from Spark of Rebellion. Sabine was propped up a little bit by ECL, Poe, and Wrecker. Without those cards, I don't think Sabine would have been that strong, and it turns out Sabine really fell off outside of like a couple sets where she really spiked in power. And Sebulba was actually one of the first decks I thought of playing, and initially, he was a pretty fun aggressive build. But as more cards, more leaders, and all of these other strategies kind of released and fell into place, Sebulba kind of just falls off. He's an aggressive build, but has some synergy built into this set. However, in the year of 2026, without ECL, Poe, and Wrecker, when Sebulba gets behind, he stays behind. And I found he's actually best if you play a space aggro deck. But if you're playing red space aggro, isn't Vonreg just better? And also if you're playing space aggro, you leave one of his better cards, the Sebulba's Pod Racer, kind of alone on the ground, and it's kind of a bad card then, because they just drop a Sentinel and Sebulba's Pod Racer does nothing. I don't think he's unplayable. He does have a unique playstyle, and I think some people who just really like brain dead aggro decks will enjoy playing Sebulba, and I think more power to him. However, Sebulba just has no way to fight back once he's behind, and unless we get more ambush, unless we get other catch-up mechanics that he's like especially tuned for, I don't see him being that meta relevant. Chewbacca, Hero of Kessel. 4 stars because I think he will have multiple tier 3 decks. So Chewbacca is an aggression heroism leader. With the action, you pay 1 resource and exhaust this leader to defeat a friendly resource, deal 2 damage to a unit, and create a credit token. He flips when you can pay 4 resources for him. So he basically is a 4-cost card. He's not flipped for free. And he flips as a 5/6 with the on-attack ability. You may defeat a friendly resource. If you do, deal 2 damage to a unit and create a credit token. So I think Chewbacca is actually a really cool card. I don't think he's that strong. I think currently he has multiple tier 3 decks. That's why he's ranked so high. But I think you can play him in literally any color. You can play him in green, you can play him in yellow, and you can play him in blue. The real power is when you play against a Chewbacca for a couple times, you realize that 2 damage, essentially for free, is kind of impactful. If you play a 2/4 and you swing base and then Chewbacca runs into you and then he can just tap his Chewbacca leader and deal 2 damage to clear it, that's actually kind of good. He reminds me a little bit of Shaman from Hearthstone. And I know it's not completely the same thing and people are always going to argue with me, but it feels a little bit like Overload, where you pay upfront for power now and you are kind of hamstringing yourself in the future. But there's a couple things that you can do to mitigate this. We got Sham, and we have the new, I forget what the card's called, I'll put it on screen, but it's a new Sham-like effect in red-yellow. So you can have 6 cards that kind of make up for you destroying your own resource to kind of catch up the resource game. He is, and I've said this in my pre-release video, the best 4-drop in the game. 5/6, deal 2 damage to a friendly unit, and create a credit token is possibly the best 4-drop we have seen in the game. He's a leader, so he has natural protection that he's hard to get rid of. The problem is you don't get a free unit. So if you want to play him aggressively, I normally think a good free unit is better than the best 4-drop. That's just kind of my thoughts. And like I said, I think Chewie has promise in all 3 colors. There's the space aggro stuff in yellow. There's the green good card stuff in green. And even blue may have some promise. Because Chewie is just a solid deck in every color, I'm going to give him 4 stars because he can just come at you with anything he wants. And maybe once we get more synergies and other cards, he could pop up the leaderboard a little bit. And it wouldn't surprise me if somebody has a really fine-tuned Chewie deck. They really are playing Chewie a lot. And then Chewbacca comes out really strong and, top 8s a couple tournaments. Enfys Nest, until we can go no higher. 3 stars because I think she'll have a tier 3 deck. So Enfys Nest has the ability, when you use an on-attack ability, you may pay 2 resources and exhaust this leader. If you do, use that ability again. She flips on 5 resources as a 3/7, with kind of the same ability. When you use an on-attack ability, you may use that ability again. Use this only once each phase, so you can't proc it multiple times a phase and just have a complete blowout turn. But if you get this for free at least one time, it could swing the balance in your favor. And Enfys has a weird leader. Her ability is a lot of the time pretty blank, but there are times where it is effective. For example, if Ebon Hawk is on the board, it's like a 2 resource plus 2 attack, since you would double its on attack ability of revealing the heroism unit and getting that 2 attack. Her flip is also just really powerful since she gets to do double on attack abilities for free. So a card like the new K2SO from A Lawless Time can deal upwards of 9 damage on play, and that is just game changing if you can pull it off and you have it set up right. I think she is only good right now in yellow, and once again, she is kind of just a red-yellow hero space aggro deck if you run the Ebon Hawk version, but has some extra pitch with some K2SO ground shenanigans. But I think this red-yellow space aggro deck just has a bunch of competition with Chewie, Enfys, Padme, Sabe, Han 4. There are so many options. I don't think Enfys comes out the winner and has an amazing meta share. Jabba the Hutt, Crime Boss. 1 star, I think he's just kind of bad. So Jabba is the other starter leader, and he's cunning villain. And as an action, you may pay 1 resource and return a friendly underworld unit to its owner's hand, and then create a credit token. He flips on 6 resources as a 3/9, so he's a huge boy and hard to get rid of. And then he has, as an action, you may play an underworld unit from your hand. If you defeated a credit token while paying its cost, that unit gains ambush for this phase. So he basically can give every underworld unit ambush, if you had credits, which is what his front side tries to synergize with. His leader side is interesting. Ambush is a really strong effect, but bouncing your own units means that you give up board presence. So the idea is probably that you play ambush underworld units, bounce them back to your hand, and then you flip, and then you get to play like a big underworld unit for like a giant crash in and like take over the game on his flip turn. And he has some synergy with some early like when played stuff, right? He has Salacious Crumb, which you can play on turn 1, deal 2 damage, bring it back to your hand. It's kind of good. And Garindon is also a really good card because you can play him, you see their hand, you bounce them back to your hand, you play them again, you already know their hand, so you can call a card that's already in there. But even if you play them and your opponent lets you bounce them back to your hand, you lose impact on board because you're not letting your cards stick. And you probably want to keep your credits for his flip because giving any underworld unit ambush is nothing to sneeze at. However, when Jabba gets to do his thing, it's still not that insane. I've had a Jabba deck be able to ambush both the new Boba Fett unit and his Rancor at me, and I still won. I let him do his thing because I was really curious if this Jabba deck could be something. It like did a lot of things, but he never could like capitalize and take over the game. I don't think he's currently there. Maybe if we get some more efficient underworld cards, he can be insane, but right now, not really. The client, please lower your blaster. 1 star, I also think he's unplayable. He's a cunning villain leader with the action exhaust this leader. If you created a token this phase, exhaust an enemy unit. He flips on 5 resources as a 4/4 shielded. On attack, if you created a token this phase, exhaust an enemy unit. And we've seen this kind of stuff in the past. So the client is an understated bad unit, and I know people are going to sit there and say exhausting is good. And sure, you make a token and then you get to exhaust their second best unit or their leader. That's all he gets to do. He only ever gets to exhaust the second best unit because it's very rare that you have initiative and that you create a token at the beginning of the action phase that lets you be able to use his ability immediately. He has such low impact, and we have seen in the past that exhausting your opponent's second best unit is just never good. It's never been great. It's just never been that good. If you were to run him, you probably run him in green or blue for shields or XP. I just don't see how you exhaust a unit and then your opponent gets to aggressive negotiations you for 15, or Luke gets to flip and then sent to you and then claim. Like, I don't see where he's at. He does have a thing where on his flip turn, he created the shield token that comes with him, so he gets to flip, attack, and exhaust. But at that point, that's 2 actions. Your opponent just isn't going to play into it. And if they do flip and then you get to attack and exhaust their leader that turn, well, guess what? They just claim and then they have their leader the next turn. So I just don't think the client's really good. Han Solo, I got a really good feeling about this. 1 star, I think he's also bad. So Han Solo is a cunning heroism leader with the action, exhaust this leader and defeat a friendly token, deal 1 damage to a unit. He flips on 5 resources as a 4/5 saboteur with the on attack ability to defeat any number of friendly tokens, deal damage to a unit equal to the number of tokens defeated this way. You defeat a friendly token and then deal 1 damage. Tokens are either units, typically in Hero they are 2/2 units, they can be shields, which at worst are like +1 health, an experience token, which is +1/+1, a force token, or a credit token. With all of these tokens, their normal mode is just always better than deal 1 damage. Why run a force deck where you kill the force token instead of playing force payoff cards? Why run credits and deal 1 damage over playing a bigger unit? I just don't think he's strong and doesn't really work unless we get something that generates a lot of tokens that are worse than deal 1 damage, which we might get in Homeworlds, maybe, but right now he's just terrible. I don't see it. Lando Calrissian, full sabak. 5 stars, I think he will have at least multiple tier 2 decks. So Lando is the other cunning heroism leader with the action pay 1 resource and exhaust this leader. Choose an aspect, then discard a card from any deck. If it has the chosen aspect, create a credit token. He flips on 6 resources as a 4/7. With the ability, when deployed, you may defeat a friendly credit token. If you do, create 3 credit tokens. So Lando has a similar playstyle to Han 1 in a way, where his flip turn is supposed to be this really big swing blowout turn, where you get to play 2 to 3 extra resources depending on how you look at it. Most oftentimes, you'll see somebody go like 9 drop on turn 6, and they drop like a really big spiky unit. But also, you can go 8 drop on 6, 8 drop on 7, and then 8 drop on 8. So maybe you build your deck more around 8 drops and not 9 drops, because you can just play them back to back to back, and then your opponent can't do anything about it. A lot of 9 and 8 drop units are really strong, especially if they get cheated out a few turns early. There is counterplay with credit hate cards and even bounce and removal options. A Lando player has the ability to play it smart, or else it's hard to claw back from. But sometimes they can just outvalue you so hard that you just can't keep up. The real question right now is, what set of cards is better? Do you run him blue to get Bo-Katan, Restore, and hard removal? Or do you play him in green, which has high card quality cards, and Rey on the top end? I think it depends on how the meta shakes out, and I think the best Lando deck may switch at some point in the set depending on how the meta is. But I think both decks are at least tier 2 decks, and possibly one of them will be tier 1. Saw Gerrera, Bring Down the Empire. 2 stars. I think you'll have like a fun, wacky deck, and quite possibly has potential for the future. So Saw is our first command aggression leader, and he's actually really cool and fun and wacky, and he did get some support, but not the best support. So as an action, you may exhaust him. You get to attack with a unit, it gets +2/+0 and gains Overwhelm for this attack. After completing the attack, defeat it. He flips on 6 resources as a 4/7 with the when attack ends, if this unit survived, you may attack with another unit. It gets +2 attack and gains Overwhelm for this attack. After completing this attack, defeat it. So Saw Gerrera basically has Heroic Sacrifice on a stick, but he doesn't get the draw ability with it, which is a downside. And he did get some cards like the Hammerhead and the 2-drop that do synergize with him in red-green. And what's super interesting about Saw is he gets to play 3 colors, but you just kind of have to ignore the heroism or villain aspects. So you could run green, red, blue, or green, red, yellow. Or you can double green, red if you wanted to, green, double red, whatever. He can have different card combinations. And I like Saw's theme. Unfortunately, just not having access to those cards, and he also flips as a 4/7 on 6. He didn't get any extra stats anywhere, I think is a problem. And Saw's ability is like a worse Anakin from Twilight's ability, where he got the +2 when attacking units. He just took 2 damage to base. Saw gets +2 while attacking units, but you have to kill your own unit. So you don't get to effectively kill their unit, keep your unit. You have to trade no matter what. Some of the cards he got, like the Hammerhead, is a strong card, but only if your opponent plays space and lets you play the Hammerhead, sit there and watch you attack with him at your unit to get the overwhelm, right? Like, how often is that going to happen? Especially since we lost sneak attack, right? If we had sneak attack and triple dark raid, I actually think Saw would be a lot better of a leader, but those are currently rotated out, and I don't think he's going to be good in Eternal unless there's some bans happening. So that's it for another video. I do like his playstyle. I think he's fun. I think he's unique. And if we get a lot of when defeated cards that aren't in hero or villain, I actually think he has potential. But right now, I don't think he does. Killing your own units is not that great, and he doesn't really get anything for it besides a little bit of damage, and you're never combating the board, and you're always behind with Saw. Tobias Beckett, People Are Predictable. 3 stars, because I think Tobias Beckett will have a tier 3 deck. So Beckett is the other double aspect leader we have, but instead of command aggression, he is cunning vigilance. So Tobias has the action, exhaust this leader, choose a friendly unit, and opponent takes control of it. If they do, create a credit token. He flips on 5 resources as a 4/6 with the when deployed ability, defeat any number of units you own but do not control. For each unit defeated this way, create a credit token and draw a card. The whole point of Tobias is you give your opponent a bunch of bad cards, they can't do anything with them, or you even benefit from them, and then whenever you flip, you get to kill those cards off, you get to grab a bunch of credit tokens, and then you get to draw a bunch of cards, and hopefully you see a bunch of aggressive negotiations, and then you have a couple units on your board that you get to then attack with those aggressive negotiations, and you can kill your opponent from they have 5 HP on their base and you put them to 30. That's kind of the idea with Beckett. He does have some good support. I think we have Val, we have Rio Durant, we have the 2-headed Troig. Those cards in this set are pretty good with Tobias. In past sets, we've also have cards like Contracted Jumpmaster, which I've talked a lot about, where he comes in, he attacks, and you just give him to your opponent, and then he dies. So you basically got a credit token akin to what Krennic can do with them. You can also use Stolen AT Hauler, right? You play Stolen AT Hauler, you attack with Stolen AT Hauler, then you give Stolen AT Hauler to your opponent, then you get to kill that Stolen AT Hauler, and then you get to play him for free. So effectively you like got a credit and then got to play it for free. So that's pretty interesting that you get to do that with Hauler. Like Hauler can effectively almost be +2 credits whenever you play it. So there are some like really cool synergies, and Tobias in a couple sets could be really, really strong. And I know he's good now, but he's just an aggressive negotiations deck. I think without aggressive negotiations, I don't think Tobias Beckett is that good. And I just don't think that Tobias Beckett is a better aggressive negotiations deck than Jyn all around. Once again, not having access to hero or villain cards is a tough sell. But I know what you're going to say, but Benton has won a tournament with him, and the Swoop Raisers love him. And I have to just say, every Beckett player I play against that's not Benton, it's not even close. I think the success that Benton has is because Benton is the world champ, and Beckett is a reasonable leader. Remember, Benton like topped the competition with like Dooku Yellow a long time ago. I think Beckett Red is a tier 3 deck. Like, I don't think it's a meme. I think there is something there. And I do think he has the possibility to be better with more sets. But right now, the card pool is just not there for him to be very present in the meta outside of like the best players in the world who really took a shine to him and are like gonna run him to success. It would not surprise me if Team Enigma and the Swoop Racers and all those people over there take Beckett and start topping and winning tournaments with him. And that's why I'm giving him a tier 3 deck. I don't know how many like average to good players are going to be able to play Beckett at a high consistent level. And that's the list. So here are the final tiers with everything in one place. I think we got 2 really strong leaders in Jyn and Lando. I think there's no way that they're not going to be meta relevant throughout the entirety of the set unless we get some kind of ban that limits Jyn's ability. I think Chewbacca is the only 4-star leader, but not because he's going to be super strong. It's just because he's going to be decent with a lot of decks. I think we got a lot of tier 3 decks that people are going to play. I think you're going to go to a lot of tournaments, and you're going to see somebody on Aurra Sing Red. You're going to see somebody trying to play Kallus. You're going to see somebody trying to play Beckett. We got some potential leaders in the future, and then some really bad leaders. So if you liked the video, please like, subscribe, join the Discord if you want. And if you're on mobile, you can hype it. It's all free, and you can get all that stuff out there. So I really appreciate that if you could do that. I got more videos on the way. I've been back from a bunch of vacations and work. So I've got a bunch of videos brewing that I want to get out. So if you want to see more videos from me, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. So with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful day and see you in a lawless time.